What's going on, everyone? I am just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about this new Arctic alliance. So, here in the United States, we really don't hear about stuff like this. And so, I actually had no idea that there was some kind of a new alliance forming, and it says here this is between Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Iceland, Finland, and Canada. So it sounds pretty important. So today, I want to take some time and learn more about what this is and what this all means. So let's take a look.
Earlier this month, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney joined a summit in Oslo with the leaders of 5 Nordic nations Norway, Denmark, Iceland, Sweden, and Finland to discuss deepening cooperation on Arctic security.
Arctic security. What is that about exactly? What do you need to keep the Arctic secure from? Russia, for it comes to mind. Maybe there's other stuff, but this is really like a topic that I think Americans we don't really know about. We don't really talk about like the Arctic security and what it's for and why it's important. And so, yeah, I think that kind of explains why most Americans like me don't know like what's going on here.
This comes amid rising great power competition in the Arctic, with Russia having increased its military presence in the region.
Okay, that is something that I kind of assumed.
And NATO responding in kind.
Okay.
And also follows the US's threats of annexing both Greenland, a semi-autonomous Arctic territory belonging to fellow NATO member Denmark, and Canada, which US President Donald Trump has spoken about making the US's 51st state.
Wait. Oh no. Oh no. Are you are you actually saying that part of the reason for forming this Arctic alliance is to protect against us? The United States? I don't know what to think about that. I mean, obviously that feels bad. Like, that's not what you want to hear as an American. That's not good for the U.S. Like, that we are causing some of this. Like, alongside Russia. Like, yeah, you definitely don't like to hear that the concerns are Russia and the United States. But, I mean, at the same time, it's like, I get it. Especially after what Trump and the U.S., the threats toward Greenland, and there have been threats towards Canada as well, certainly. So, as painful as it is, I can't say that it's unreasonable. Like, we have done these things, so it makes sense that countries around the world would be concerned and want to take action, measures. Because the U.S. has been acting very threatening and unpredictable. And yeah, it's just sad. It's sad for us. Yeah. Wow. Wasn't necessarily expecting that to be part of this.
So, in this video, we'll explain this new informal Arctic alliance and why Canada and the Nordic countries are increasing their cooperation. Let's start with some Arctic geography. 8 countries, the US, Canada, Russia, Denmark, via Greenland, Norway, Iceland, Finland, and Sweden have territory inside the Arctic Circle.
Okay.
Together they form the Arctic Council, a forum established in 1996, but suspended in 2022 following Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine.
The Arctic Council. I didn't know that the United States... What do we have, like Alaska, I guess? Part of the U.S. does extend that far north, I guess. Yeah, that's something we don't really think about, but like Alaska and obviously the Nordic countries, Denmark, Russia, Canada makes sense. Okay.
But suspended in 2022 following Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine.
Right.
More than half, 53%, of the Arctic Ocean coastline is Russian. Around 15% is American in Alaska, and the
Wow.
rest, 32%, is Canadian or
I didn't know that we actually had 15%. Wow. I didn't know. I actually didn't even know that. Cool.
Nordic. According to the Simons Foundation, a Canadian non-profit, 30 of the 66 major military bases across the Arctic are Russian.
Wow.
Earlier this month, Canadian
Wow, there is a huge Russian presence in the Arctic territory. Like the majority, or not majority, but I guess plurality, like the biggest amount belongs to Russia, and they have a big military presence. And yeah, I know that the Arctic regions are important for like trade routes and shipping, and there's stuff that makes it very, very, very important territory.
Earlier this month, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney met with Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre in Oslo, and the two leaders signed an agreement to bolster cooperation on defence, security, and industrial partnership.
Norway and Canada. Cool. And an official agreement has been signed. This is an official deal.
Among other things, Canada and Norway agreed to establish a bilateral dialogue on Arctic security, explore opportunities for secure military satellite communications, promote an industrial partnership on space, artificial intelligence, digitalization, and critical minerals,
Cool.
and deepen cooperation on space.
So Norway specifically, out of all the Nordic countries that we're discussing here, the Arctic countries, Norway specifically doing this particular deal with Canada. Cool.
Including Earth observation, navigation, communications, and maritime domain awareness.
Okay.
The following day, Carney then joined a Canada-Nordic summit with the leaders of the so-called Nordic Five, or N5 group of Denmark, Norway, Iceland, Finland, and Sweden.
Okay.
The first time a Canadian Prime Minister has met with all 5 Nordic leaders in a dedicated format.
Wow.
For context,
So Canada is kind of... It's funny because Canada is like obviously known for being cold, north. Like it shares a lot of similar qualities with like Nordic countries, except Canada is not part of Europe. But other than that, it's actually quite sort of similar geography or position on the Earth. You know, like that kind of stuff. Yeah, I never really thought about that.
For context, the N5 group has existed since the late 2000s and gained importance after Russia invaded Ukraine. Given that several Nordic countries have historical experience facing Russian expansionism, Finland, for instance, successfully defended itself against a Soviet invasion in 1939-40, while Sweden was in conflict with Russia over Baltic territories for more than 300 years, the Russia-Ukraine war renewed these concerns,
Yeah.
prompting Finland and Sweden to join NATO in 2023 and 2024.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that answers the question of like why now? Why is all this happening? Well, Russia showing renewed aggression towards Ukraine, and I know Canada has a new prime minister, Mark Carney, who's maybe interested in facilitating some of these talks, and it's all happening now, which is really cool.
Anyway, the Arctic has increasingly become a sphere for rising great power competition, marked not just by Russian military activity, but also by the US's interest in Greenland.
Yeah, there we are again. I almost forgot about that. The U.S. is a motivation for this Arctic alliance, which is sad for us that we're caught. That's sad. It's embarrassing for us, frankly. But yeah, Trump showing a lot of interest in Greenland and Canada and Arctic expansion, you could really say. I mean, there was one government representative in the United States who did a speech about creating greater North America, where the U.S. would like have everything in North America, basically. It's insane.
This has sparked concerns inside NATO, which has responded by actively increasing its own presence in the Arctic since late January, through training exercises, deployments, patrols, and new operation centres.
Okay.
As such, the Canada-Nordic Summit seems to be a new format for Arctic defence and security cooperation outside the NATO framework, and
Wow.
without either Russia or the US.
This is something like totally new. It's sort of unprecedented. The Nordic countries, and including Canada, all coming together outside NATO, not including the US. It's just your thing. And seizing like taking some initiative on how to defend and manage the Arctic territories. It's really cool. Obviously, as an American, the only depressing thing is that it excludes the US, but I understand why.
The six countries' joint statement includes a commitment to meet more regularly at different levels to advance our shared principles and interests, which essentially sounds like an expansion of the Nordics N5 format to also include Canada.
Yeah.
As Halvor Hegton of the Norwegian newspaper Aftenposten put it, the six countries are now building their own Arctic alliance
Yeah.
without the other large North American country.
Yeah.
So, why is this new Arctic alliance being formed, and what does it aim to achieve?
Yeah.
Well, perhaps unsurprisingly, the main catalyst for this new Arctic alliance is US President Donald Trump.
Yeah. I mean, it's not surprising, but that's the main catalyst. I mean, I agree. Like, the stuff that Trump did, threatening to attack Greenland and take Greenland, that's unforgivable. That's insane. And I think a lot of Americans don't even realize how scary that was to the world to see that, how much that damaged our reputation. And a lot of Americans have really stopped thinking about the whole Greenland thing because now we've moved on to Iran, war with Iran. But a lot of countries, like the Nordic countries, have taken note, and you're proactively, you're making plans and arrangements in a response to the U.S. acting crazy, basically.
In recent months, Denmark and its Arctic NATO allies have faced threats of US military aggression towards Greenland,
Yeah.
with an astonishing report published in the Financial Times last week revealing that Denmark was prepared to blow up runways in Greenland to repel a US invasion. And, like the Nordic nations,
I mean, it's crazy. That was the U.S. That was one of the most. That was like a turning point for a lot of Americans. How embarrassing and horrible that was. What Trump and we did. Insane. Yeah. So I get it.
Canada has also faced threats of annexation by Trump. This was not just a demonstration of the Trump
Yeah.
administration's disdain for NATO, but amounted to active undermining of it. And as such, NATO allies were forced to reckon with the fact that the Trump-led US might not be a reliable ally, and may even be a threat. As such, NATO members Canada and the Nordics, which have similar locations on each side of the Atlantic, indigenous populations, and major oil, gas, and seafood industries, are trying to build a transatlantic security alliance in the Arctic without the US's participation.
Wow.
The second related reason is the new geopolitical order. As Carney described in his widely cited Davos speech in January, the world's middle powers are now facing a rupture in the world order, marked by weakened multilateral institutions and greater transactionalism.
I actually I watched this speech. It was this amazing speech Mark Carney did, basically talking a bit about how a lot of the middle power countries, not the biggest ones, but like Nordic countries and Canada, should be working together more and not relying on countries like us, like the US.
Carney believes the middle powers risk being subsumed by larger powers unless they diversify their partnerships and build coalitions with other like-minded countries committed to multilateralism.
So that's exactly what's happening. The Nordic countries and Canada are doing exactly what is in your interest, what's good for you, and what you should do, honestly. And yeah, wow. So it's actually happening.
In their joint statement, the six Arctic Alliance countries describe themselves as democracies and countries committed to the rule of law, human rights, and the territorial integrity and sovereignty of states.
Yeah, I mean, what an amazing collection of countries, by the way. The Nordic countries, like I know, like Finland, Sweden, Norway, like you guys are known for being some of the most happy, successful countries, especially for your size. And Canada, too. Like, very good reputations. Like, a bunch of countries with fantastic reputations and working together. It's cool to see, honestly. It'd be cooler if the US wasn't being so stupid.
And also reiterate their strong and continued support for Ukraine, noting that Ukraine's security is integral to European and Euro-Atlantic security. Moreover, a few days before Carney met with the Nordic leaders, Canada announced a multi-billion-dollar plan to build new military bases in northern Canada's Arctic region.
So that's a part of this, like literally building up the military presence in the Arctic regions in case you have to defend against Russia or, God forbid, the US.
A move interpreted as a message to Trump, with Carney saying, "With this plan, we're taking control of our future. We will no longer rely on others to defend our Arctic security." The third...
Oh, because Canada in the past has had partnerships with the US where we defend parts of Canada, and I think they're very much looking to get away from that.
The third reason for the Canada-Nordic alliance is growing competition in the Arctic. Greenland is an obvious example of this. While Trump mainly spoke of national security when justifying his desire to take over Greenland, claiming the US needed Greenland to prevent China or Russia from taking it, analysts understood Greenland's critical minerals to also be an underlying factor.
Yes.
Following Trump's comments, the 5 Nordic foreign ministers asserted in a statement that matters concerning Denmark and Greenland are for Denmark and Greenland to decide alone.
Yeah.
While Carney said the future of Greenland is a decision for Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark.
So during this whole controversy, Canada kind of stepped up and was vocal about defending the sovereignty of Greenland and Denmark, and so they kind of showed like sort of what side they're on, for lack of a better word.
As such, the Canada-Nordic alliance aims to collectively navigate this new, more transactional foreign policy environment, where larger countries can use access to resources as leverage over smaller ones. In their post-summit press conference, Sture said the 6 leaders discussed how we are going to protect our values as open, liberal, modern democracies in a world where autocratic forces are weaponizing critical resources.
I think a lot of Americans really struggle to see this point of view, like the point of view of other countries, like the Nordics and Canada, and who feel like America, that we're like trying to bully and threaten and use resources as a threat. And I totally understand where you would be completely sick of that, where you like, that sounds horrible. The United States wouldn't like it if some other big country was threatening us in this way. We wouldn't like that. So of course you guys don't like this. Yeah, absolutely.
And said they would bring those issues to EU and NATO summits too. He added, "We believe these 6 countries are not weak countries. They're strong countries in terms of their values, their determination, and we're ready to follow up this discussion." Finally, this new Arctic alliance is also evidence of Canada's increasing alignment with Europe. In February, for a €10 million participation fee, Canada became the first non-European country to join the EU's SAFE programme, a joint defence procurement scheme that offers loans to participating countries to invest in defence capabilities.
Really shows you how one of the United States' biggest, longest, most important allies, Canada, is really trying to get away from us and open up more partnerships with Europe, really.
In June, Canada and the EU struck a defence and trade deal, and in March 2025, Carney visited Europe, not the US, on his first foreign trip, saying Canada needed to strengthen its ties with, quote, reliable allies. This Canada-Nordics alliance is, therefore, another way for Canada to bolster its relationship with Europe, while reducing its dependence on the US.
It makes sense. It's not fun to hear, but it makes sense.
As we mentioned earlier...
Okay, so that's the end of that video. This was fascinating. Obviously, like, not fun to hear from an American perspective, but honestly, trying to be objective here, it seems like this is exactly what the Nordic countries and Canada should be doing. It's bizarre to talk about the US in such a negative way, but given the things we have done in the last year, I can't blame you at all for this. This seems like a good idea for you guys. Makes sense. Hopefully the United States can figure out a way through this and how to regain everyone's trust and fix our reputation, maybe that will require waiting 3 years or more for Trump to get out of office. And even then, things might not go back to the way they were. It's very sad to think about these things as an American right now, honestly. And this just showed how serious this is. So yeah, it's cool what the Nordics and Canada are doing, and really sad for the U.S. what we're doing. So yeah. Anyway, if you enjoyed this, feel free to give this video a like, or leave a comment with your thoughts on this new Arctic alliance that most Americans have no idea is even happening. So I'm glad I took some time to learn about this. And if you're interested in more videos like this, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.